Okay, so we'll get started. Joanne, if you're ready, I'll introduce myself again and welcome everyone to BC Links to Learning Day 2. This session is with Futurpreneur Canada, and my name is Paul Macedo, Communications Director with Can Do. I am based in Edmonton and my home, and on Treaty 6 territory. And that's where Can Do is based as well, in Edmonton, Treaty 6. And we welcome you. Today's presentation is Futurpreneur Canada, and our presenter is Joanne Norris with Futurpreneur Canada, who will talk to us about their programs, initiatives, and support for youth entrepreneurship, in particular Indigenous youth entrepreneurship. And I know that Can Do, over the last few years, has been inundated with requests from EDOs out in the community for supports for youth entrepreneurs. And so we certainly recognize the need, and we also recognize the tremendous resource that Futurpreneur can be to communities. So Joanne, want to take it away?
Thank you, Paul. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining. So my name is Joanne Norris, as Paul said, and I am the National Director for Indigenous and Northern Communities on behalf of Futurpreneur. And I am based out of Coast Salish territory here in Vancouver, the unceded territory of the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish nations. So I'm welcoming you and thank you for joining from this part of province. So as Paul said, I'm with Futurpreneur Canada, and we are a national nonprofit that we've been serving young entrepreneurs for, I don't know why my screen isn't, oh, there we go. For over 20 years now, and we do it nationally, so we have national scope, and I work with a team nationally to serve Indigenous entrepreneurs, but we serve all profiles of entrepreneurs. But in the last year, we have developed a dedicated team to connect with and support young Indigenous entrepreneurs, so I'll be talking mostly about that. Just to give you a sense of sort of our scope, we serve nationally annually up to approximately between 900 and 1,000 entrepreneurs with our core program, which is startup financing and a mentor match. So we match our each entrepreneur that we support, and I'll talk a little bit about how the financing works, with a mentor for 2 years. So that's one of our sort of biggest differentiators in the marketplace in terms of other lenders. And another thing that we do is that and a big part of what my team does is help young people with tools and resources and targeted, very practical training to develop their business ideas, their plans, and cash flow forecasts. So just to give you a sense of our resources, so our website is futurpreneur.ca, and on that website there are a plethora of free resources that people can use to build their business plans, access marketing resources and videos. One of the things we just have completed is we did an update to our primary tool that the young entrepreneurs use to build their business plan. We have a business plan tool on our website, and we've updated it to make it more reflective of Indigenous businesses, with some case examples of Indigenous businesses in the tool, as well as a navigation pathway that that enables people to identify where they're located, what nation they may belong to, and what their Indigenous status is as well. And another thing that we've done in the tool is we have little snippet videos of a young Indigenous entrepreneur, Destiny Peters, who has a salon in Saskatoon called Tangles. And she talks about how she, went about her market research and did her pricing. Because we know a lot of the young entrepreneurs we support, it's difficult putting together a business plan. Sometimes people don't know how to do market research. And so we try and create little educational tidbits in the tool itself. So that's exciting for us. And I just want to say a little bit about, what I've learned over the past few years in terms of supporting young Indigenous entrepreneurs. One thing that is been clear to me is that over the last few years, there's really more awareness. The awareness has grown about launching a business as a career option for people. And some of the statistics really show the rise of Indigenous entrepreneurship. Now, I'm sure all of you on this webinar know, entrepreneurship is nothing new for Indigenous people. That is for sure. But as far as sort of modern day business ownership and opportunities to launch businesses, I think there is an increased attraction and motivation and passion for Indigenous people in general and young people and women to launch businesses for their livelihoods, to support their businesses, to develop their passions into viable business options, which is really, really exciting. And that is why we're here to help them do that in terms of what we can do. So these are just a few stats on some of the growth of Indigenous entrepreneurship, both for self-employment, for women and men, as well as for businesses across the country. The Canadian Council for Aboriginal Business puts out a lot of good research on this, and there's a growing amount of census data as well. And some of you may be familiar with the Indigenomics movement and Carol Ann Hilton and what she is doing to sort of lay the foundation for the world to know what the opportunities are here. And so I think we're in a really exciting time to both support and really recognize what's happening in this space. And just to give you a sense of the types of businesses and that we support a lot of businesses that are, owner operator, might end up having a few employees, may have not, we don't do a lot of technology driven businesses per se, but sometimes we do. And we also, this is an example, Heal Yoga, of a young woman based in Terrace, who we were able to help her with some startup financing to get going, as well as a mentor match. And often, young people come to us with their dreams and their ideas. And our job is to help them build a viable business model and plan to make them come to fruition. And this is an example of an entrepreneur, Devin Fiddler, who we helped. I think her initial launch was about 5 years ago, and now she's grown into quite a large business. She Native Goods, and she started at her kitchen table, and that's how many of our entrepreneurs start. And often they need that support and just a little bit of financing to get going and to grow. And one of the most important things is, it's the mindset. We don't, our job isn't to, tell people what type of business they should start, in what sector. People come to us with what they want to start, and then our job is to work with them to make that come to reality. And Wendell Netmaker is another entrepreneur that we've supported, and we supported him back, I think, 10 years ago, when he was first launching Nietzsche gear as in terms of his lifestyle apparel brand. And then just last year, we were able to work with him, hire him to do some coaching with some of the entrepreneurs that we're supporting. So that's another thing that we try and do, is we will work with and hire entrepreneurs that we've supported where we can in terms of our programming and services. So Wendell Netmaker over the years has also grown a coaching academy. And so that is where we were able to work with him as a service provider, which is really exciting. We also try and profile the entrepreneurs that we support as role models. So right now with Devin, she's part of a role model campaign that we've developed to inspire other young people to take the leap into entrepreneurship. And David Plamondon is a Alberta-based entrepreneur that we've supported, and he had an idea to sort of a combination business of a consulting business as well as to integrate his passion for games. And so this is an entrepreneur that my colleague Sammy, who's based in Edmonton, was able to help him in terms of figuring out the right type of startup financing package that he would need to launch Watame Consulting and Games into the marketplace. And so far, we've also been able to, last fall, he was part of a panel so he could share his story with others about why he started this business and how his business model works. And so we really try and get opportunities for our entrepreneurs to share their stories wherever we can as well. And here's another entrepreneur, Kiara, and she launched a shop called Twin Feather, and she's based out of Regina in Saskatoon. Again, an opportunity for her, something she'd been thinking about, but didn't know where to start. And then she connected with us and was able to get on a pathway of support and then launch her business. So just to give you, so I wanted to start just profiling some of the types of businesses that we've supported over the last year, and then some earlier ones. And now I'll go into a little bit about our team and how our programming works. So as I mentioned, I'm based in Vancouver, and then my colleague Sammy Zorb is based in Edmonton, and Sammy works with entrepreneurs in Alberta and BC. And I also work with some entrepreneurs based in BC as well. And we have another team member, Justin Holness, who's based in Ottawa, and he works with entrepreneurs in Ontario and Eastward, and Noah Wilson, who's based in Winnipeg, and he works with entrepreneurs in Manitoba and Saskatchewan. And so in terms of the positioning of our programming and how we collaborate with other organizations in the sort of entrepreneurial ecosystem, we have partnerships with Indigenous organizations that also do lending. So the National Aboriginal Capital Corporation Association and their member-based organizations, the Aboriginal Financial Institutions. It's really important for us that we can determine pathways that we can complement and collaborate to support young entrepreneurs. So, for example, we only, can lend between $5,000 and $60,000. Some entrepreneurs need more than that. So, they will be able to get some supports from an Aboriginal financial institution, and then some where we fit in is really on the sort of working capital side of things. And then that mentor match with the financing is also really appealing. And as I mentioned also earlier with Devin Fiddler, we do spend time and energy to find opportunities to amplify the experience of our young Indigenous entrepreneurs that we've supported in the past to inspire others. So in terms of doing role model campaigns, that's really important for us. And then we also established with NACA an Indigenous Youth Business Advisory Council that we can speak to ask their advice, to get their input in terms of in terms of our programming, and the challenges that young people can bump up against in terms of accessing financing, as well as developing their business plans. So in terms of some specific eligibility requirements for our core startup program, and all of this information is available too on our website, just to let you know, at futurpreneur.ca. And futurpreneur.ca/Indigenous is our program page where people can sign up, input their name and their email, and then get connected to one of my team members in terms of getting support, in terms of what stage they're at in their business startup. But Futurpreneur, we really only focus on that early stage. So we don't do a lot of expansion financing, or it's for people who are either pre-launch or in their first year of business. And the reason we were set up that way is because mainstream lenders, really that's not their business. They like to see, you know, a history, cash flow that's already been determined. And so we're sort of that first step into accessing some startup capital, some support and mentorship. And so we have, you know, some of the criteria. So you do need to be a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident. If you are a student in your final year of studies, and this is for the core program, because the intention is that the young entrepreneur will be working in that business, so needs to have the time to be able to work full time in the business. And you know, the complete and viable business plan is really what needs to be submitted, with a 2-month cash flow forecast as well for the initial application to our program. And then depending on, you know, the particular circumstances of application, whether it's a partnership, whether there's leaseholds involved, you know, that's when once they've applied through one of our team members or directly through our portal, then they go to our colleagues, the customer relationship managers, who work with them one-on-one, specifically on their particular application in terms of figuring out how much they would be eligible for in terms of that $5,000 to $60,000, what makes sense in terms of their startup capital needs, and that kind of thing. So as I said, you know, the money is up to $60,000. Futurpreneur has a loan pool of between $5,000 and $20,000. And then with our partnership with Business Development Canada, people can apply for an additional $40,000. So it's a separate application, but Futurpreneur is the administrator of that application. So Business Development Canada is a partner, a financial partner with us. And as one of the other unique features in terms of the financing is that it is character-based. So we don't take collateral in terms of the financing, so it's unsecured, but it does have to be personally guaranteed. by the entrepreneur. And we do have flexible repayment schedule. So for the first year, it's a no principal payment, interest only. And then the payments start in year 2. And entrepreneurs, it is a 5-year term, but people can pay it back. There's no charge for that. They can make balloon, they can make bulk payments. So it really is flexible. Often people will, as you know, in that first year of business, you can plan, but you may not know, you might completely exceed your sales projections. So often young entrepreneurs, they'll borrow a little bit more than they need just to be safe, to have that cushion. And then if once they've got a sort of streamlined cash flow that is relatively predictable, then if they don't need all of the money that they borrowed, then they can pay it back within the 5-year term. I just wanted to see, this one is a little bit more of a, and so in terms of how the up to 20 is different from the up to 40, the 20,000 from Futurpreneur, and then we also have a side hustle program, which I'll talk a little bit more in a moment, which has slightly different terms. It's for people who are launching part-time businesses, so they won't be working full-time in the business. So in terms of who qualifies, so it is a combination of a credit report and the strength of the business plan viability. That's really important to know. So it's not all based on credit, or it's not all based on the viability of the business plan. It's a combination. And we have just developed some credit education videos that we're going to start integrating more and more in with those clients who may need a little bit more support on the credit sort of education side of things, in terms of getting ready to apply to borrow money. And then in terms of the $40,000 in financing for DC, the first year, it's similar in terms of the first year payments are interest and fees only, and they can repay an additional 15% of outstanding principal each year at no cost. So slightly different than the Futurepreneur's 20. And owners will be asked to contribute 10% of the total amount of financing involved in the project. So this 10% can be, like, let's say an entrepreneur is starting a printmaking business and they'd already bought a piece of equipment a year ago, and as they were just getting things started, that could qualify for that contribution. So those are the types of specific scenarios that our customer relationship team work individually with the entrepreneurs on. So I want to talk a little bit about our side hustle program. So this is something that we launched relatively recently, about 5 years ago, because we were getting inquiries into, whether we could, whether people could borrow money for part-time businesses. And at the time, we just had our core startup program. So we over a couple of years, we developed and tested the market to see about the side hustle program and the opportunity for people who don't need to borrow as much money, aren't quite ready to launch a full-time business, either have a job or have other household income that they can rely on, but they do have a great idea that they really want to get into the marketplace and test. And so that's why we started this side hustle program. And it's a slightly different application process. It doesn't require a full comprehensive business plan like the core startup program, but it does require a business summary as well. And so far, we're really getting to understand that a lot of people, do like to start more slowly, and not sort of jump in. But our core, I would say right now, definitely about 90 to 95% of the people we support are launching full-time businesses, but we do know that there's a market for people who do want to do part-time, and we're serving that one as well. So here, this, as I mentioned before, these are just our links for how you can get registered to get connected to our resources and things like that. Another thing that we're doing is we have been doing for the last few years some targeted practical training called Rock My Business Plan or Rock My Business Idea. And this year with our new Indigenous team, we've started training called Launching My Indigenous Startup. And the next one we're going to be doing, it's going to be in June. And we always put up, we have an event page and we put up there where and when those trainings will take place on our futurpreneur.ca/EN Indigenous page. So definitely check that out. And these are free, and they target our 18 to 39 audience, but anyone can join on. So for example, if you are an economic development officer and you want to learn and get access to resources for young people in your community, definitely a good opportunity to do that. And that is, and then we also will do outreach webinars with our partners. So with our AFI partners or other collaborators in the ecosystem, because we do know that one of the challenges many people experience is just, okay, who does what? Different organizations have different programs and services. And so just getting sort of aware and knowing who does what is really important for the young entrepreneurs. And so we try and guide them in terms of what would make the most sense based on where they're at. So we do have collaborative relationships with a lot of organizations in this space. And if they'll come to us and they either don't meet our age range or they're a later stage business, then we want to be able to refer them to somewhere that they could get help. So I think that is about it. I think I'm a little under time, but that's not always a bad thing. I'm wondering if anyone has any questions.
Thanks, Joanne. Actually, George asked a question about the mentorship. If you can explain a little bit more of the one-on-one and what that looks like and what's expected.
Sure. So how it works, what we do when we're working with an entrepreneur who's going through our financing application process, they've determined they're eligible for, say, a certain amount, like 30,000. We talk to that entrepreneur and we say, where do you think you might need support? What, people aren't good at everything. And so, they might identify that, they really want support from a mentor in terms of developing and establishing a really good sales strategy. And then on the mentor side, our mentors are all volunteers, and the expectation is that on average of up to 4 hours a month, they would dedicate to their relationship with their futurepreneur. And so we're constantly recruiting established business owners or professionals in the financing, sales, operations, supply chain. Often people, once they're at a certain stage of their career, they want to give back. And often business people want to give back to other, people younger than themselves coming through starting their business. They want to be able to share their knowledge. And so how we do the matching is we once we found what we think is a good match, and we have a team that does this at Futurpreneur, we'll do an introduction, and then there'll be, if it looks like it's a good fit, then there's we have sort of a very brief documentation that what is this going to look like? How often will they meet? So some mentors and mentees like to meet, for longer periods. So, have a full day once a month that they go through a whole bunch of stuff, whereas others might want to meet weekly, for a half hour or an hour call. It really depends on the dynamic of the mentor-mentee relationship. And then we also are just developing testing some opportunities for smaller group type of mentorship. But the core mentorship program is a one-on-one match with an entrepreneur and what they're looking for, and then a mentor who can provide that support and advice.
Thanks, Joanne.
Yeah.
A couple more questions. Crystal is asking about information on grants. Do you provide grants? Are you aware of grants that are available, or do you just provide the loans?
Our core financing is lending, not grant making. We have but what we try and do, like for example, is share if there are other organizations that have grants that would be eligible for young entrepreneurs. Then we will post that on our channels. We have a Indigenous Facebook group where we do that as well. But our financing is lending, so it does need to be paid back. And that's where, if there are some Indigenous focused grants that some of our AFI partners might use or might have, then, we'll promote that where possible as well.
Okay, thank you. And Gail was asking about your partnership with AFI in BC. She mentions she checked your website and it says you're only a partner with NEDC, and she's wondering about other partnerships if you have them in place, and if you work with other AFIs.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks. So NEDC, and then we also have a partnership with the Métis Financial. Oh my goodness, Evan Salter. I'm just forgetting the acronym, but that's a newer one. We're just establishing that one in terms of the Métis Financial Corp of BC. I think that's the right name. But NEDC, and then is our core partner right now in BC, but we've also in the past worked with Tricorp as well. And we are definitely open and wanting to work with more AFIs. And so we're just, and we have worked with the one in Kamloops as well, which is also a Community Futures, the central, that serves the Central Interior First Nations. So how we've done it and how we've been setting up MOU relationships, but even sometimes, even with an AFI we may not have a formal partnership with, we'll do financing collaboration with them if, for example, the entrepreneur is already working with an AFI, but then they need a little bit more working capital from Futurpreneur, that kind of thing. That's generally how it works.
Okay, and Roy mentions that it's All Nations Trust is the one you're thinking of in
oh, right.
Interior. Okay. Yeah. Gail asked another question about if there's any incentives or perks if you go through Futurpreneur and you also can piggyback with partners such as other AFIs or business development bank and so on. If there's one, if you can piggyback; two, if there's special incentives to partner with other agencies.
Special incentives for
perks.
Whoops. For the entrepreneur, or sorry, I don't know if I
Yeah.
understand.
So, Gail, do you want to turn on
Yeah.
your mic
Hi
and just ask the question?
Hi, Gail.
Yeah. Hi, calling in from Merritt, British Columbia here.
Hi.
Yeah, and and I think Crystal asked the question and you answered it. But I'm just like looking at where we are leveraging loans for an individual, and there's reasons or opportunities or advantages to getting a certain amount of a loan from you and then another loan from maybe the AFI or the BDC. So just kind of wondering what those perks are, because an entrepreneur needs to kind of weigh out those pros and cons, where the best capital is coming from and how it's going to assist them. So I agree, or I will say that I think the mentorship program that you are presenting is wonderful, and I think that's very important and a key success factor in a new entrepreneur. But I'm just, kind of looking at grants or interest rates, or maybe if they paid the debt early, would there be a non-repayable contribution? So just asking that question out loud, what perks there are.
Sure. So I think one of a perk, I guess you could say, is that the interest rate is competitive. So it's 6.2 right now. It's basically prime plus 3.75. We don't have any part like similar to what some of the AFIs have. We don't have like a repayable portion, or that it would be a grant based on a certain amount of payback or anything like that. I guess the interest only in the first year, and the ability to pay back within 5 years is a little bit of a perk as well. And that is that's the like we don't have any sort of, I mean, we're seeing if we can offer any different types of financing. We're kind of exploring that right now, but at this point it's our lending, and with the eligibility criteria that I presented. Yeah, but that's a great question, and I know what you mean. And we do encourage entrepreneurs to shop around and get the best sort of financing package they can.
Yeah. Thanks for that, explaining the answer and just going into it a little bit more. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I don't know, my screen went black. Can everyone see me okay? I can't. I think
we can see you. We just can't see your screen. But that's okay, because it went black. It just says click
I don't know what happened
end of
there.
slideshow. Thank you for those of you asking questions. If there's, we still have some time. So if you have any additional questions, now's your chance.
Mm-hmm.
Crystal asks about if your program is for new businesses, or can a business that is established and wanting to expand apply?
It is just for new businesses. We're very much sort of positioned for people who are pre-launch, so they have their idea, but they haven't launched anything yet, or they're within the first 12 months of business. So we don't do expansion financing right now. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know.
Roy, and then Roy asks about, I think you answered this a little bit, but would you consider connecting entrepreneurs to complementary products or services?
In terms of other lenders and support organizations, definitely. I mean, we don't, for example, do deep training or longer term programmatic education on entrepreneurship. So we definitely refer people to organizations that do that, or organizations like Small Business BC, who do more, focus on training and marketing or pricing or operations, things like that. So we try and not do what others are doing, and then collaborate with those and direct the entrepreneurs where it makes the most sense, or where they're based, where they're at with their particular business or idea.
Great.
Yeah.
If there are no more questions, then I'll just end here and thank you, Joanne, for taking the time to present. I think it's always useful for EDOs to be aware of additional resources for their community. And I think your discussion about entrepreneurship as being a career opportunity for many young people, I think that hits home in a lot of communities. And if we can provide resources, refer them to experts such as yourself and organizations such as yourself, I think it fast tracks the process of getting youth to be successful business owners, not just successful at starting a business. So we appreciate that very much. And Can-Do appreciates you attending this session. And we encourage you to fill out evaluations so that you can let us know what we've done right, but more importantly, what we can do better. We always look for that feedback so that we can create additional webinars, events, sessions that provide you with the training and information that you need to be more successful. So on behalf of Can-Do and Links to Learning, thank you for attending and participating in this session. Thank you again, Joanne, and look forward to bumping into you at a future session or a future event in person at some point, hopefully. Cross fingers. Take care. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you for attending. I really appreciate it.